Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on X at TDC_Calvin, and you can find the podcast at FF After Dark. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere the podcasts are found. If you want to go watch, you can find us on Rumble and YouTube. You can see some videos. Sometimes we've got some cool graphics. You can see my ugly mug here today. But if you just want to listen to the audio-only version, I implore you to go over to the Spotify, Apple, add us over there, subscribe to the channel, like us, leave a comment down below, and we'd love to hear from you guys. But today I'm excited because we're going to be talking about Cooper Kupp and the Dynasty impact from his injury. And if you're a player that has Cooper Kupp, how I would be approaching his value. If you're someone that is looking to go and get possibly Cooper Kupp, or you're worried about going to get Cooper Kupp, how I would approach it. Now, it's been a couple days since the news broke, so in case you haven't heard, Cooper Kupp had a re-injury to his hamstring. Now, I am not a doctor. I want to preface the video with that. So, shocker, I'm not a doctor, just an engineer, not a doctor, right? So, take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm just going to give you the logical, my opinion on the logical way to approach this situation. If you have Cooper Kupp, and all the doctors out there say that, it's not a good sign that he's re-injured the hamstring already, re-aggravated it, whatever. If he comes back too soon, and people are kind of saying that with the verbiage and, the framework that's been laid out by Sean McVay and the team, it sounds like this is going to be a 1 to 2 week hold off, right? And in week 3, 4, he should be back. Maybe even week 2 if he kind of pushes it a little bit. If he comes back early, right at that 1 to 2 weeks, or right at 1 week, there is a 25% chance of re-injury. If you re-injure that hamstring, he's basically going to be out until, half of the season. Basically what Keenan Allen was last year, where he missed 10 games. That's what we're going to expect from Cooper Kupp. If he doesn't re-injure it, you got Cooper Kupp, and maybe he starts a couple of weeks, half strength or 75% or whatever it is. But for fantasy football, that might still be elite, right? Now, this is where people have been all over the board on Cooper Kupp this last weekend. Oh, he's too old, hamstrings, once you have a hamstring and you're 30, you're done. But here's the thing. Keenan Allen did it last year, and when Keenan Allen came back, he was a stud for fantasy football. He was so good for fantasy last year. A lot of people aren't really aware of the fact that I think Keenan Allen was averaging like 17 points per game once he came back last year. It was an insane pace. Now, you had to endure 10 games of not having Keenan Allen. But for Cooper Kupp, his pace last year before he got injured, and the Rams kind of shut him down last year with a lot of the other starters, he had 204 points in 9 games. Dude was setting an otherworldly pace of points that he was scoring last year. He would have easily been the number 1 overall player if he would have continued at that pace. Now, more than likely, he wouldn't have been able to for a whole 17 games, but through 9 weeks to score 204 points was absolutely insane, and we know that he is going to be the number 1 target in this offense. They really don't have a great number 2. Now, Van Jefferson's getting a lot of buzz and praise as the number 2 here, but outside of Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers, there's not a lot of great pass catchers for this team. He's by far Matt Stafford's favorite target, and you can pencil him in for, again, somewhere between 10 to 14 targets per game, probably on average, once he's healthy. Now, the question is, how many games is he going to miss, and what's that risk kind of look like? So, we've established that Cooper Kupp is still a superstar player. He's 30 years old. I understand that argument. And a lot of people are saying, oh, he's too old. He can't do that. You can't be trading for a player. You can't be rostering a player that's in his 30s. you got to go and get guys like Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill, who are 6 months younger than Cooper Kupp, but oddly are still top 10 dynasty assets. Cooper Kupp is currently, he's kind of fallen a little bit. He's the wide receiver, 16 to 12, somewhere in that range. Meanwhile, the Tyreek Hill, he's still top 5 in a lot of cases. He's 5 to 8, somewhere in that range. Stephon Diggs is right there from 8 to 10. Both of these guys are massively ahead of Cooper Kupp in trade value as well, which is just, again, absolutely crazy to me. If you look at Tyreek Hill for Stephon Diggs, for example, a lot of the trade calculators, and I'm just using some public perception out there, if you were to try and trade 1-for-1 on these two guys, sites like Keep Trade Cut are saying that for Cooper Kupp for Tyreek Hill, you would need to also include Miles Sanders. Now, does that feel fair? I don't think so whatsoever. I think that Cooper Kupp still has the ability to completely destroy Tyreek Hill. Like, he was on a better pace last year than Tyreek Hill was by far through those 9 games before he got injured. Now, there is the injury risk, but again, Tyreek Hill's not immune to injury on his own right. And the fact that you're getting Cooper Kupp potentially at such a massive discount makes him very interesting. Now, if you have Cooper Kupp, what do you need to do? First thing you need to do is look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself one question. Do I have a legitimate chance to compete this year? If the answer is yes, in Dynasty football, keep Cooper Kupp. He's going to be more valuable to your team than any trade asset you're going to be able to get. Because as of right now, if you were trading away Cooper Kupp, right, just giving away Cooper Kupp, you're having to give up, players like Kenneth Walker, a mid-first next year, TJ Hawkinson, Christian Watson. Are you telling me that Christian Watson is going to have the same dynasty impact or weekly impact as a Cooper Kupp right now? The answer is going to be no. So if you have Cooper Kupp and you think that you have a good chance of going for a playoff run, keep Cooper Kupp. If you have Cooper Kupp and you think that your team is kind of mid or it's on the bad side of variance, I would be selling Cooper Kupp. Now, I would wait until he comes back and he's healthy and showing that he's, still performing on the field to do that. I would not sell right now. This is peak buy window for Cooper Kupp because the Cooper Kupp managers are very nervous out there, and I've seen a lot of them. I've heard a lot of them, and they are very worried. But if Cooper Kupp comes back in week 2, we're overreacting to a re-aggravated hamstring. It's not like he tore his ACL. He's not going to miss the year. He's going to miss a week, maybe 2 weeks. He might be there week 1. We have no idea yet. But they're out there and they're worried. So they're trying to sell. This is peak buy time for Cooper Kupp. Wait until he starts to perform on the field if you're going to sell Cooper Kupp. Now, on the flip side, if you're someone that is just a couple of pieces away, you're one elite player away, go and get Cooper Kupp, because I do think that, for a mid-first next year, that is entirely worth it if you are one piece away. That first round pick next year, everyone says, oh, these first rounders, they only get more and more valuable. But if you are going to be a good team, and you already think that without Cooper Kupp, right? You add Cooper Kupp, you're only going to be better, in my opinion, and it's going to push you closer to the title. So, you're talking pick 7 with bad playoff variance, right? Anywhere from pick 7 to pick 12. The first round picks bust at an extremely high rate, even in fantasy football. It's about 1 in 2 actually become fantasy viable. A couple years ago, look at all those elite quarterback options. Zach Wilson, everyone loves to meme on the kid now, but at the time, Zach Wilson was by far and away, a top 5 dynasty pick. Now you can barely even get a first round pick for him in Superflex leagues, right? Same with Trey Lance. He was a top 5 dynasty pick in that draft class. Same draft class, I believe. But now you can barely even get a first rounder for Trey Lance, if at all. A lot of these first round picks bust, and nobody likes to go back and look at that. But at the same time, if you're giving up a late first, let's assume that it's a bad pick. Let's assume that it's one of the bust picks. You just made out, you won the title, or you put yourself in a very good position to go and get the title for a bust player who's not even going to pan out for your team. Flip side, let's say it's a good player. You still got a couple years of Cooper Kupp left. I know that it's like very popular to say he's old. He's barely 30. There's guys that are playing well into their 30s nowadays, and I think that's where a little bit of the narrative has shifted and has gotten a little silly. In my opinion, you've got guys out there like Davante Adams. Davante Adams is a little bit older than Cooper Kupp, and he's still performing just fine. You've got Keenan Allen out there, who I already talked about, and he's just fine. You can have these older wide receivers, and they still perform. DeAndre Hopkins, they're not going to be the same level once they get up into their 30s, but they can still be very good for fantasy football. And again, the Rams are kind of a dumpster fire, man. They don't have a lot of options there for the team. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. And if you're going to get Cooper Kupp for a mid to late first next year, sign me up for that all day, because if he's back in week 2, again, you're getting an absolute steal on an elite player that can put you in playoff contention. If you can get him for, some of the guys that are going around him in terms of trade evaluation, like Jahan Dotson for Cooper Kupp, yeah, give me Cooper Kupp over Dotson. I like Dotson a lot too. George Pickens, these guys, they're very young. You could have these guys for a decade, or they could also conversely bust. We don't know that these guys are solidified top 5 dynasty prospects like Cooper Kupp is when he's healthy and on the field. So, I do think that there's some value there, and people with the Cooper Kupp, again, if you're going to buy him, now is the perfect time. Do not wait till he gets back on the field. Go buy now, because once he gets on the field, he's still going to be Matt Stafford's number 1 guy. He's going to produce like crazy, and you've got him for a couple more years. He's only played in the league for 6 years. I could see him playing until he's 33, 34, like an Adam Thielen, for example. Maybe he has a few injury-riddled years, but the guy is an elite talent, and, once he gets those targets, which he's going to get in this offense, the dude is just a very, very productive player for fantasy football. So I think that you're in a peak buy window for Cooper Kupp. If you want to go and get him, I advise it right now. And if you're a contender, do not move Cooper Kupp. Do not freak out right now. So that's my advice on Cooper Kupp. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why you should be panic selling on Cooper Kupp. But I think most of the guys that listen to this podcast are a little bit more, level-minded. But if you have a difference of opinions, just go and let me know. And I'm happy to hear why you think that I'm wrong there. So again, you can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can find the podcast on FF After Dark and, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But the podcast is also available on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere the podcasts are found. We appreciate you guys checking this out. We're going to be back tomorrow with a Thursday night preview. And, I guess I can quickly mention it here just to add a little bit of time here to this video. The in-season content that we're thinking about doing is going to be a weekly preview. We're going to break it up into 2 episodes because, we're going to go through every single matchup for the week, talk about some of the fantasy players that we like for the week. It's going to be a little bit easier that way to kind of talk about it from a dynasty perspective because it's hard to avoid getting too far into the weeds with the recaps, and also you have to do those ASAP. Otherwise, you're out of date there. So we're going to be doing all these weekly previews, talking about them. We'll obviously reference the last week in those previews as well, but we're going to give it from a dynasty lens in the middle of the redraft season. We're going to talk about guys that we like for the games and we like for the week, but also guys that we're kind of interested, that we think that you could see as trade targets for your rosters that are going to help you now for the title, like a Cooper Kupp, but also in the future as well. So we're excited to be doing that. We're going to start that off with a Thursday night preview this week, and then next week we're going to get into week 2, all the different games. It'll give us a little bit to talk about too, because as of right now, the preview for week 1, it's all just projections and hopes and feelings and everything like that. So there's not a lot to go on. Once we have actual football played, it gives us a little bit more of a concrete idea. So that's the content that we're going to be putting out there in season. Obviously going to be talking about news and all that fun jazz as well, but just wanted to let you guys know there. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me here tonight. I appreciate it. Hit us up over on Twitter. If you have any questions, hit us up on YouTube. Again, comment down below, like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, have a good night.